Once upon a time, in a small village nestled between tall mountains, the people lived happily, farming, fishing, and celebrating festivals. It was a peaceful village where men were strong and proud, while women were kind and hardworking. The village had one major rule: everyone must respect the sacred tree in the middle of the village square. The elders said the tree had been there since the beginning of time and protected the village from evil. In this village, there lived a mysterious woman named Olama. She was beautiful, but her beauty was strange, almost too perfect. Her skin was as smooth as polished wood, her eyes sparkled like the stars, and her hair was long and black like the night. People would stare at her whenever she walked by, but something about her made everyone uncomfortable. Olama lived alone at the edge of the village in a small hut near the forbidden forest. Nobody knew much about her past, and she rarely spoke to anyone. When she did speak, her voice was as soft as the wind, and no one could tell if she was happy or sad. One day, something very strange happened. It started when the men of the village began to feel weak. The strongest hunters who could carry wild animals on their shoulders could no longer lift a stick. The fishermen who could pull heavy nets from the river with ease now struggled to even pull a rope. Every man, from the youngest boy to the oldest elder, felt a terrible weakness in their bodies. They had lost their strength. The men gathered at the village square to discuss the problem, but they were too tired to even sit up straight. Their wives had to help them. The village elders, worried and confused, sent for the village healer, but even he did not know what was happening. "This is not natural," said Elder Nwoi, the oldest man in the village. "Someone has cursed us." The people whispered in fear. They had never seen anything like this before. It was as if all the strength had been sucked out of the men. "We must find out who did this," said another elder, tapping his walking stick on the ground. "It cannot be the work of a human." The villagers began to suspect that it had something to do with the sacred tree. Perhaps someone had broken the village rule and disrespected the tree. They decided to send a group of men to inspect it, but the men were too weak to move. So, the women took it upon themselves to investigate. That night, while the village was quiet, Olama appeared at the sacred tree. She danced around it, her long hair flowing behind her. Her eyes glowed in the dark, and she chanted strange words that no one could understand. Her voice was soft, but there was a power behind it, a dangerous kind of power. What the villagers did not know was that Olama was not just a woman. She was a spirit, a powerful being who had been watching the village for years. She had stolen the manhoods of all the men in the village by placing a curse on the sacred tree. It was her revenge for being ignored and left out by the villagers. The next morning, the women gathered at the sacred tree. They were shocked to find strange markings around it. The tree seemed different, darker, as if it was sick. The women hurried back to the village to tell the elders. "We have to act quickly," said Elder Nwoi. "If we don't, the village will lose all its men." The women decided to confront Olama. They went to her hut, but she was not there. They searched the village, but she was nowhere to be found. It was then that one of the younger women remembered seeing Olama dancing around the sacred tree the night before. The women returned to the tree and found Olama waiting for them. She stood there, calm and still, her eyes glowing. "Why are you here?" one of the women asked, her voice shaking. "What have you done to our men?" Olama smiled. "I took what belonged to me. The men's strength is mine now." The women gasped. They could not believe what they were hearing. "Why would you do such a thing?" another woman asked, tears in her eyes. "We have done nothing to you." "You did nothing," Olama said coldly. "You ignored me, treated me like I was invisible. Now, you will all feel my power." The women were scared, but they knew they had to do something. They could not let Olama's curse destroy their village. "We will stop you," the leader of the women said bravely. We will find a way to break your curse. Olama laughed. You can try, but you will fail. The curse is too strong. But the women did not give up. They went to the village healer, who told them that the only way to break the curse was to find the root of Olama's power. They had to search deep in the forbidden forest for a special herb that could break the spell. The journey was long and dangerous. The forbidden forest was full of wild animals and strange creatures. The women had to be brave and stick together as they searched for the herb. They faced many challenges along the way: storms, hunger, and even an encounter with a giant snake. But they did not turn back. Finally, after many days, they found the herb. It was hidden deep in the forest, glowing under the light of the moon. The women carefully picked it and hurried back to the village. When they returned, they went straight to the sacred tree. Olama was waiting for them, but this time, she did not smile. She knew that the women had found a way to break her curse. The leader of the women held up the herb and began to chant. As she did, the wind began to blow, and the sky darkened. Olama screamed in anger as the power of the herb weakened her. The sacred tree shook, and the strange markings on it began to disappear. Finally, with one last scream, Olama vanished. The curse was broken. The next morning, the men woke up feeling strong again. The village was saved, and the people rejoiced. They never saw Olama again, but they knew they had to be more careful. They learned the importance of respecting every person in the village, no matter how different they seemed. From that day on, the village lived in peace. The sacred tree was still there, but now it stood as a reminder that power could come from the most unexpected places, and that unity was the greatest strength of all.